Joe Biden is a living, breathing wet noodle, or not really living and maybe not breathing wet noodle. And I say that in like, I know 80-year-olds. His brain is not melting. He's not an evil guy. He's not particularly senile. He's just old, and he cannot stick the landing. And what's worse than old, Francesca? Oh, it's neoliberal and old. It's old thinking and old. It's being stuck in a world where you can reason with your opponents and you don't have to go for the jugular. It's being in a world where you're friends with the CEOs and heads of industry. It's being in a world where you are a senator from a state where corporations go because they avoid taxes. Like, he cannot present a worldview that is radically different, hopeful, inspiring, and cogent, that can actually counter what Donald Trump is laying out. Joe Biden cannot even explain or say, hey, you think 4 years of Trump was bad? Wait till you see 4 more years of Trump. They've laid out their plans. We're seeing their extremist appointments in the Supreme Court playing out every single day. My administration did X, Y, and Z for the labor movement. His Supreme Court is doing that. Like there, it's just so upsetting to see someone. It's you know what it makes me feel like? This is an analogy I'm sure a lot of people will feel. Do you guys remember the first few like a month or weeks out after COVID hit? And especially after we were like, oh, we need masks, and we should probably be like taking precautions, and nobody can find masks. And what about the good masks? You remember that feeling of utter governmentlessness? You know, the feeling that libertarian billionaires who are buying Donald Trump right now relish in, which is, why can't we have The Walking Dead and the rich people can just fly private jets to go pick up N95 masks? That feeling of who the fuck is in charge right now, that's how I feel. That is how I think a lot of Democratic voters feel, is like, who is representing this alternative? Who can actually stand up to Joe Biden? And I said it in 2021, back when he was elected, in 2020. And I'll say it again. Joe Biden might be a lifeline out of the worst of Donald Trump, but he does not present a vision. He does not present a countervailing narrative that you need if you were to actually speak to the people who are saying things like, oh, it's the immigrants coming across the border, the immigrant, which is, no, like, there is one divide in this country, and that's the divide between the haves and the have-nots, the rich and everybody else. I mean, people have said this in the chat, but my God, are we all not thinking about Bernie fucking Sanders? But because we have the media that we do, and because we have business the way we do, and because dark money buys all of our elections, we can't get nice things like democratic socialism, which honestly would have just been like an expansion of social welfare programs for all people. I mean, it was bad 4 years ago, this debate. It was in many ways worse tonight. Where Biden was the strongest was around Ukraine. Where he was the weakest was around pretty much everything else. And I'm reminded of things that people said. By the way, thank you so much for super chats, guys. If this gets demonetized, which it likely will, your money and your support really goes a long way. If you want to support the show by becoming a patron, getting access to a bunch of bonus episodes, patreon.com/bitchuation room. Thank you so much. in advance for all the patrones, or you can become a member on YouTube and also get access to all of those episodes. And this button has been unbuttoned for like forever. But anyway, you can't tell. These debates don't really matter. Like, not most voters aren't watching this debate. They're not like us. They not like us, in the words of Kendrick. There are a bunch of Drakes out there, fucking posers. No, they're not really paying attention, because there are people who, no matter what, will not vote for Donald Trump. There's just no way. They're not going to vote for Donald Trump. They'll either not vote, or they'll just vote for Joe Biden. It doesn't matter how senile he is. And I think a lot of us feel this way, that he's a terrible candidate, but fuck if we're going to ever vote for Donald Trump. And, there were so many lines. I'm reminded of what happened this week. I do think it is nice to bring up things that happened today or this week, and that was the Julian Assange winning his freedom. Now, Julian Assange, although Donald Trump talked a big game about, WikiLeaks, if you're here, if you're listening, and there was some crossover and some collab between WikiLeaks and the Trump campaign, that is true. But who actually freed Julian Assange, right? It was Biden. And that would have been an interesting thing to bring up. Look, what helps people is diplomacy. Now, let's put aside greenlighting Israel a million. I want to talk about that in a second. But the reason that Julian Assange is free is, one, because of a lot of dedicated activists, but two, because the governments of both Australia, where he is from, and the government of the United States changed. So the Labour Party was elected in Australia, and they were much more amenable to the cries of his family, and they were taking the case of Assange to the White House regularly. And Joe Biden was the president, and Merrick Garland was the head of the Department of Justice, and the plea deal they struck was with the fucking federal government. I'm just saying, like, there are objective reasons why diplomacy over chest thumping, why, attempts at democracy over demagoguery, why collaboration and coordination on a global scale to fight things like climate change versus pig-headedness, selfishness, actually work to make everyone's lives better. But this motherfucker cannot articulate that. This guy is not our guy. He is not able to save us from the worst impulses of so many in this electorate, of so many billionaires who are bankrolling this electorate. And it is really, really disheartening and depressing. Bill B. Yay. So this is what it looks like when an empire is failing. Yeah, I think so. Can I touch on Instagram? Says, bye Joe, enter Kamala.
I'm not sure about that.
Shut up. Jesus Christ, someone's talking to you. Yeah. It's time for Kamala. I mean, say what you will about her, but Kamala Harris would have slayed that debate. And there is something a little bit weird about hearing two old white men talk about the black vote. Like, I'm not black, but like, you can tell me if that didn't feel a little bit awkward and strange and just like, why? Like, why? It's just a weird fetish. It's a weird fetish. I don't understand. Talk about the white vote. Hey, why is the white vote too enthusiastic to vote for you, Donald Trump? Nah, man. Don't take my word for it. I'm not a crazy lefty. I am a crazy lefty. I'm just a crazy lefty. Who believes in freeing Palestine and ending the genocide immediately. Ask people like Ezra Klein. Ask people like Nate Silver of 538. Ask these Beltway boy wonders who they think should be running in the Democratic Party. Ask the people who know. You guys remember that up until October 7th completely changed the narrative about everything, including whether or not Joe Biden was fit to run for president again. That was what we were talking about. We were talking about his age a lot. Now, to be fair to what I was saying at the time was I didn't think it was relevant because I thought that what he was doing was good. And I think that is still the case. But on these kinds of debates, on winning the narrative, on shaping the narrative, on leading a party, if he squeaks by with a victory, we have so much work to do. And I still don't think that Democrats are serious enough. And we see that through their behavior when it comes to cheering on the funneling of foreign money like AIPAC money into tanking incumbents like Jamal Bowman. We see them with the lack of seriousness when they support what's his ass face from Texas, that congressman who was not for abortion rights and now is facing 1 million indictments over Jessica Cisneros. We see that they're not serious. This Democratic Party is not serious about stopping fascism. There's never been a Trump derangement syndrome. Okay? There's been a Trump soft pedaling syndrome. There's never been a real obsession with Donald Trump and the real threat that he poses. It's all just a fucking show to everyone, except for you and I, except for the people. It is, it's terrifying. It's terrifying. These are our leaders. I felt it from the day Donald Trump was elected. I felt it from the moment that Barack Obama didn't stand up on a stage that very night and stand with Hillary Clinton and say, this is not who we are. We need to be better. Now, I know other people are like, no, this is exactly who we are. And I get it. I understand that perspective wholly. But I don't think that, yes, this country is racist and white nationalist. But I don't think that giving in to that id is a way forward, is a way through it, is a way to change it. I do, however, think the following, and this is the only funny thing I will muster tonight, which is, let's just give him this presidency. You know why? Because then he can't run again. I know what you're thinking. He'll extend term limits. Maybe. But I don't want to see him running anymore. If we have something called term limits, he can just get his 4 years out of his system, maybe we can weather it, because I don't ever want to hear from this motherfucker again. And yet this is our lives now. This is our lives. This is the life of my child who you saw earlier. This is our lives. This is our country. If you're abroad, fuck you. I'm jealous. Where's a spare room so I can come stay? What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do it.